Hey there, Jordan Chariton live. Status Coup. It is Monday. What is the day? February 21st. The year is 2022. I actually apologize because the setup behind me is a little screwy. Long story short, we had to repaint behind me over the weekend. There was some water damage in my wall from previous storms in the basement here. So the lighting is might be a little screwy and the light bulb might be too low to my head. I'll fix all that another time. But we're coming live a little bit early today because I've been reporting all morning and some of yesterday on breaking developments with Movement for a People's Party. I'm going to have a guest joining me in a few minutes who was removed or left of her own volition. We'll find out from her a while ago from Movement for a People's Party. But before we go to Renee, I want to share with you information that I have acquired and Status Coup has acquired. First, smash that like button right under the live stream. The more people that press the like button, the more people that will see. A few things before I get to the information. Number one, I have reached out to Nick Brana, who is the national chair of Movement for a People's Party. I have not heard back yet. So we did reach out to him for request for comment. Also, what my reporting is, because I know there will be some people who use this line of attack. What I'm reporting has nothing to do with third parties. If you want to grow a third party movement, have at it. I'm not against Movement for a People's Party or a third party. This is not the reporting I'm doing has nothing to do with trying to bring you into the Democratic Party. I'm a reporter and I'm going to report the information that I have. So has nothing to do with trying to attack third parties, but I would not be doing my job if I didn't share the information I have. So let me just set it up for you, and then we're going to bring on the guest. Over the weekend, Paula Jean Swearengin. Paula Jean Swearengin was the candidate who ran against Joe Manchin in 2018 as a Democrat for the West Virginia Senate. In 2020, she ran again for West Virginia Senate. She won the nomination of the West Virginia Democratic Party, but then unfortunately lost in the general election. She announced she was leaving the Democratic Party and joining the People's Party a couple months ago. She announced over the weekend, here's the tweet, after several questions, I will confirm People's Party US is purging staff, board members, and volunteers with open, serious grievances against Nick Brana. This is happening after months of retaliation. Obviously, I withdraw my support. And Nick Brana is the chair, the national chair of People's Party. I also reached out to Paula Jean for an interview. I have not heard back yet as far as an interview with Paula Jean. So she is basically withdrawing from People's Party. I was told that she gave in her 2 weeks notice and she talked of serious grievances against Nick Brana. She also wrote a lot of things on Twitter, but I wanted to call attention to this particular tweet. She wrote, they don't have the infrastructure and knowledge to run an effective campaign. The people that were going to help them are getting run off. So I've heard this, by the way, for a while from different sources, that the infrastructure was poor within Movement for a People's Party, significantly disorganized, that for many years this has been going on, but they were not close to having any actual candidates. So Paula Jean is the setup. When she talks about people are being run off, I want to show you what she's talking about. Colin, if we could bring up these screenshots. Thank you for being patient, Renee. I'm going to bring you on in just a minute. I just want to set up the audience for this. If you could bring up these screenshots, this is from Movement for a People's Party Slack. So Status Coup obtained these messages. This is from yesterday. Michelle Ramirez, regional coordinator of Movement for a People's Party. I'm told that she handles the Southwest and the Great Plains area. She wrote, "Hi, everyone. The National Coordinator Circle of the People's Party," that's the actual board of the People's Party, "has decided to remove certain members effective immediately. They list Regina Clark, Thomas Royko, and Todd Jelen are no longer on the Coordinators Circle, the board of directors of the People's Party. There are times when changes become necessary for the sake of the organization, and those in leadership need to make difficult decisions. When a board is paralyzed or doesn't exercise leadership, critical decisions are delayed. issues are unresolved and our volunteers and members go unheard. Allowed to continue, these conditions can harm the organization that thousands of people across every state in this country have worked hard to build, and in which so many have placed their trust and hope. We will share more information shortly. For now, we'd like to say that we appreciate the contributions that all our members make, including those of the departing directors. The message in the Slack continue. This is from somebody named David Mizell. Hi, everyone. We want to inform you that Sabrina Pena-Young contract as communications director has been terminated effective immediately due to a number of factors, including the serious concerns raised by numerous volunteers regarding her performance and interactions with members. Thank you for your patience as we work to address the issue, which we were previously unable to act upon. So I want to be clear, and remember, press that like button, share this live stream. I have now, for multiple sources, several, that there was an investigation going on of Nick Brana. That there was an investigation going on of Nick Brana, the chair of People's Party. I cannot confirm what was being investigated. I've heard some things, but as a journalist, I'm not going to share things that I can't verify. But at this time that there was an investigation going on, as these board members were purged, there was an investigation going on into Nick Brana, the chair. I'm not trying to be coy. I just don't have enough to go on. I can confirm there was an investigation. That much I know. I do not want to, no, not an FBI investigation and an internal investigation within Movement for a People's Party. But I'm not going to report things that I have not done the due diligence to verify what exactly was being investigated. But the timing is that while this investigation was going on and the people investigating it had come to some conclusions, all of a sudden people were being purged off the board of People's Party. Again, I reached out to Nick Brana. I have not heard back. There's other things too, but I want to bring in Renee Johnston. I hope you're not driving, Renee.
Actually, I'm, and as long as it won't throw you off too much, I'm going to turn my camera off and just have the conversation with you if that works. I don't want to, I just didn't want you to be in a position with like no picture on the screen. I ended up having to drive to pick my son up. So
no, that's okay.
On route.
That's okay.
All right.
I want you to be safe. So okay. Colin, can we still hear Renee?
Can you hear me?
Colin, can we hear Renee?
Can you hear me okay?
I can't hear you, Colin. Hold on, Renee. I'm not hearing Colin. Hold on. Colin, we could hear now? Okay, people are saying they hear. All right, Renee, and we'll fix this later in post. So okay. Renee, can you explain, just so people know, when did you join Movement for a People's Party and what was your experience?
So I signed on after their convention, which was late. I think it was either the last day of August or the first day of September in 2020. I signed on. I was living in New York and was very excited by what I heard during that convention with all the speakers and the idea of breaking the duopoly. I signed up. There was a little bit of confusion with who was going to onboard me. There was no one at the time doing anything in the state of New York. So I was essentially the first person who was onboarded with the ability to onboard other people and to start having meetings to discuss what we were going to do within New York in order to, help grow the party. We started meeting. We were initially told to just work within New York City because there wasn't the means to, work with anyone outside of New York City. That was difficult to do because there were people who were very interested outside of the city in participating. So we essentially just started opening the meetings to whoever was a resident of New York State. I was also a member of the Black Voters for People's Party Circle. We met frequently with hopes of making sure the platform was reflective of our voices, and to make sure that the things that would be really pertinent in making sure that Black voters were going to be part of this emerging party were going to be present. That kind of fell apart when we found out that we were really just being tasked to bringing more Black people into the party, even though there wasn't really a strong platform to support those voices. Eventually, and I'm trying to give you the real short version of the story because this can get very long if I go into too much detail, but feel free to ask any questions. Eventually, there was a lot of concern. There were no bylaws. There were no details about what states were supposed to do. There was no information for those of us who were working in state hubs to help us really kind of gauge what our actual directives were. We were having a hard time getting answers from, people in the coordinating circle. There was just a lot of what seemed to be misinformation about what the organization actually was. When I signed up, it was boasted that they were going to be a horizontal structure with self-organizing systems. We were all going to be autonomous. And then all of that information suddenly disappeared. And we were essentially told, no, it's going to be a hierarchy. The coordinating circle is going to be running this. And so a group of over 200 people signed a petition in hopes of forcing the coordinating circle to kind of come around to the idea that, this is supposed to be about the people. And these are the things that the people are going to need. The people are going to want to see bylaws. The people are going to want to see financial transparency. The people, when they join, are going to want to know what exactly they're doing that's going to help, move this party forward. Within New York at the time, New York is one of those states where you have to run somebody. You can't just sign a petition to become a party. You can't get ballot access with petition. You have to run someone. There was no information about what they were going to do in the state of New York to run anybody. And this seemed to be consistent across the board. Every state that tried to gather some real direction was unable to do so. Eventually, the petition turned... Go ahead.
Can I cut in too?
Sure.
Again, I want to ask, because timing-wise, Nick Brada, who's obviously was the public face of this, he was making suggestions that they were going to be running candidates in 2022 and, midterms, things like that. And then even suggesting they would be running a candidate in 2024. What I'm hearing from you, as well as some others I've spoken off camera, is that was nowhere near possible based
Correct.
On a lack of infrastructure, disorganization, and, internal drama, I guess you would say.
Correct. And what you saw was a rewrite. Because when they first started, they were going to run candidates in 2020. They were going to run candidates in 2018 and run a president in 2020. So this cycle of getting people pumped with this idea that they were going to do something has been literally circling the drain for years. And every time a new generation of volunteers gets involved, this cycle restarts where the volunteers are excited. They get involved, they start working, they realize that nobody knows what they're doing. They try to get, they try to force some change from within the organization. And at some point, they're all just removed because the people who are at the top, which is essentially Nick and his dad, decide, and whoever, decides that they're really holding tight to Nick and his dad, they decide they don't need those other voices and they eventually get purged. It's now, literally what it was. It was just over a year ago when I was booted. So
can you flesh that
cycle again?
Can you flesh that out for me a little bit? Again, I have reached out to Nick Brana. I have not heard back yet. Now, I've heard from other people that Nick's father is on the board. Can you explain his father's role with MPP?
His father is head of the financial circle working group. So okay. He's the person. And again, we never got full clarity on how the finances were being managed. There was a financial working group circle that was supposed to be working on all these details, but the head of that circle was Nick's father.
I see. Okay. And can I ask you, I know that you have been gone for a year, but I spoke with someone, a more recent MPP person, no longer with MPP, who told me right before I went live, I was talking to this person who shared with me that MPP took kind of a shift recently, and Nick was kind of pushing this, where there was a lot of internal tension about the COVID and vaccines, mandates, quote unquote lockdowns. To be clear to the audience, I'm not bringing this up to litigate all that. People know what I think. But what I was told is there would be people that come in to join MPP, but they don't stay long because they were turned off because the internal Slack for MPP, it kind of got, the actual focus got diverted from actual organizing, and it became this food fight over coronavirus. And I just, before you answer, I want to show this. I want to show this image. Status Coup obtained images from the Slack. So this is images from the internal Slack, and this is from Nick Brana himself. I can't say exactly when it's from, but Nick Brana, who I'm told by multiple sources was pushing for a vote, an up or down vote, so a yes or no vote, on the organization coming out publicly against COVID mandates and things like that. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but Colin, if you could put it up on the screen, this is Nick Brana. I remember when you had Bell's palsy, Rod. I was relieved and grateful that you recovered. As Theo and others said, thank you for sharing your personal medical history, particularly when it comes to COVID vaccine side effects. Moving on, the movement against mandates is the largest populist movement in the world. It is the #1 issue that tens of millions of people are tuning in to a populist independent media to hear about, including Jimmy Dore, Kim Iverson, Joe Rogan, Russell Brand, and Breaking Points, because people essentially vote with their viewership in real time. Populist independent media are a strong barometer of the issues that populists care about, the causes that unite working people on the left and the right to, quote, dismantle the corporate state, as Ralph Nader put it in his 2015 book. So I was told by multiple sources that COVID became not like the major issue with MPP. You and I have been speaking about other issues, but recently it became such an issue that this was becoming such a food fight in the internal Slack that not only did pretty much the entire Virginia People's Party leadership resign, but a lot of other people were leaving, whether they were because they didn't agree with this, anti-mandate position, or there was too much drama going on over COVID, and it was distracting from building MPP.
Right. So the MPP Slack space is one of the most toxic spaces I've ever been involved in life. And that says a lot because I'm 45 years old and I work in a high school. So when I say that, it's with sincerity. And the issue is that when these topics come up that are divisive, instead of trying to find a way to work within the construct of what the volunteers and the people who are actually working within the party or organization, we're not going to call it a party, it's not a party, want to do, it turns into a battle.
I think we lost you. Yeah, we just lost Renee. Hold on. Let me just tell her we lost your audio. Just lost your audio. All right, we'll try to get Renee back. I just told her we just lost her audio. So let me go through some more things. And by the way, smash the like button. We got 530 people watching. Smash that like button. Just so you know, by the way, at 5 o'clock Eastern today, so in a couple hours, I'm going to have an interview with Jake Hanrahan. He is with Popular Front, a filmmaker who has reported extensively from war zones. He is in Kiev in Ukraine. I interviewed him yesterday. So I'll have an interview at 5 o'clock with Jake Hanrahan about the Ukraine-Russia situation. You might be very surprised what you hear from somebody actually on the ground. So that's coming up at 5 o'clock Eastern time. We're trying to get Renee back up. So don't go anywhere. We'll have her back. But I want to share some other things. So to be clear, I learned a lot of information beyond the COVID situation. So I don't want to give off the wrong appearance that COVID and mandates and lockdowns is the main issue as far as Movement for a People's Party, them removing board members, them removing volunteers. It's not the main issue, but it is an issue as far as I was told. And let me actually just get the actual wording that I was told here. So we have it. This is from a source. I'm going to respect the source and not name them. Quote, in the national Slack, there were a number of volunteers who were vaccine skeptic, while there were others who were conspiracy theorists who thought masks are part of pandemic theater to make people believe that the pandemic was worse than it really was. Some were coordinators at the state level, pushing what this source said was a conspiracy theory. There were also some people who were pushing ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. Hydroxychloroquine was basically what Trump was pushing, the liquid bleach. When you have an organization like this and you're trying to attract new volunteers, making excuses for pushing ivermectin and hydrochloroquine and other conspiracy theories, it influences the type of people who will want to stay with the organization. The source was telling me that it was becoming, they would get new volunteers, but those volunteers would then leave because they were turned off by the COVID stuff. And again, I'm not saying this to get into mandates or vaccines. People know my position. And I think I think there is a healthy debate on mandates, whether we should have mandates. I'm pro-vaccine. If you don't want to get vaccinated, I think you're wrong, but that's your choice. But I was told recently that particularly Nick Brana was being investigated. And at the time he was being investigated, that's when he started pushing fairly aggressively for Movement for a People's Party to come out publicly with a public position against COVID-19 mandates, against so-called lockdowns. Again, I lived in New York City. I don't know what people are talking about. There was no actual firm lockdown in America. There was in Europe, not in America. There was people out and about, even at the worst of this in 2020. But I was also told that, again, the timing was when Nick learned that there was an investigation into him. And again, I don't have enough information to accurately share what was being investigated. As a journalist, I'm not going to just I'm not going to give what I've heard if I can't verify it. So I'm working on that. But when he found out that he was being investigated, whatever he was being investigated for, that's when he started pushing for Movement for a People's Party to come out against mandates. And there was dissent on that. There were other board members at Movement for a People's Party who did not want an up or down vote internally on whether MPP should come out against mandates. They wanted to do polling amongst the members, and Nick was against that. He wanted a yes or no. But I was told by a source that the timing was all of a sudden Nick learned that he was being investigated by the board or by leadership, and that's when he started pushing this topic. So you draw your own conclusions why he would, when he learned he was being investigated, be pushing that. Renee, are you there?
I'm here. Sorry.
No problem.
I'm on my way to upstate New York. So I'm in the
That's why we're not 60 minutes. It's okay. So I forgot where we left off, but you were sharing information you had about that, essentially the internal Slack. And to be fair, by the way, to MPP, it's not like the Green Party or other third parties or other things don't have drama. So I don't want to make it seem like there's never drama in third parties or organizations. But from what you're saying and what I've seen in terms of messages that I've seen, basically the MPP Slack almost was like becoming like a YouTube live stream chat with people arguing.
Right. And the part of the issue is that it's not monitored well enough. There are too many people in there, and there's no one really working to keep the space safe. There was a lot that went on when I was in the Slack with regard to, racist comments that were homophobic, transphobic. I mean, and spaces, you're correct, spaces get like that when they're unmonitored. But part of the issue was there was no attempt to fix it. Like, there would be people in the Slack saying, can someone please from leadership step in here and do something, say something, help in some way, and there would be nowhere to turn for any assistance when these things were going on. And it was the same thing now. People start fighting about, who's right and who should get mandated, and, whether or not the mandates are right, and the masks and the anti-vaxxing. And there were people who would say, like, listen, people are within their rights to make their own decisions about whether or not they want to get vaccinated, but this is not something that we as an organization and as a political organization, specifically, should be jumping into, because there are too many outside factors that are on the anti-vax side that make it a very tricky space to navigate if you're trying to really work with all kinds of people. And when it was brought to the attention that, we're going to start to have a problem with regard to right-leaning people, and a lot of the white supremacist conversations that were coming up, and people stepping in, and, stop being about masking and mandates and vaccines, and started to be about legitimate questions of, how are we going to take any kind of stance on this without seeming as if we're getting involved with white supremacists. And that was initially like brushed off, like, well, that's not really a concern. And that should always be a concern if you're a political party who is seeking to get votes from all kinds of people.
Right. And I just want to give an update, because this is all happening in real time. I was just sent by Nick Brana. I reached out to him before I went live. I didn't hear back from him before I went live, but he just sent me this. So I want to be fair to him and show what he's sending me. Colin, if you have what I just sent you. So this, he wrote to me, hold on. Hey, Jordan, that's inaccurate. This petition was sent to leadership from dozens of National Organizing Committee delegates and volunteers on Saturday. We'll be sharing a statement soon.
He's talking about a different petition. He's talking about the petition that was just written by a group of people who wanted the comms director, Sabrina, removed. The petition I am speaking about is a petition that was indeed signed by 220-something people back in 2019 that forced them to sit on multiple Zoom calls and have conversations about the lack of leadership, the lack of direction, the lack of bylaws, the lack of transparency. So Nick is going to come to you, because this is what he does. And I really hope that, like, this has been the most frustrating experience with regard to all of this, is Nick's ability to just pretend like nothing that happened is happening. I've never seen anything like it. It is truly bizarre. He's going to zero in on this second petition, and he's going to act like the first petition didn't happen. I have the first petition.
I just hold on. I have to be fair as a journalist. So let me read what he sent me. And then we could go on. So basically, I don't know what he's saying is inaccurate that I said, but he sent me a petition to remove Sabrina Pena-Young from all leadership roles. That is who I read the Slack message that was removed. She was the communications director. This is dated February 19th, 2020, from undersigned members of the People's Party to Regina Clark, Thomas Royko, Todd Jelen, petition to remove Sabrina Pena-Young.
And all three of those people that petition was.
Yes, all three of those people were removed, according to the Slack channel.
Right.
All three of those people were removed also. But let me just read this, because I have to be fair. On February 17th, during the NOC meeting, in response to a majority of votes in favor of diversity, the non-voting paid staff communications director, Sabrina Pena-Young, unleashed an unprovoked attack on the majority of delegates with inflammatory words that hinted at racism. Near the end of the meeting, another unprovoked attack directed at the NOC chair came from a delegate with a reputation of disrespect and inflammatory language, speaking out of turn and berating and flipping off the chair for the second time and calling for his removal. During that attack, Sabrina, who arguably had the prerogative as secretary assistant to intervene, remained silent. With no moderator intervening, another delegate took initiative and asked the disrespectful one to, quote, shut up. It was then that Sabrina intervened and repeatedly and fervently yelled out of order at the latter, apparently to allow the unprovoked assault on the chair to continue. When the chair asked Sabrina to stop, she resumed her attacks in the chat. This is a pretty long statement. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll put, I don't know if this doc that Nick sent me is, I don't know if he wants it shared. So I'm not going to put it in the super chat, but he says there's a public statement going out now. To be clear, as far as I know, what Nick is talking about is about the communications director that was removed.
Yes.
What I and others have been saying, but what I'm reporting is there are several other people that were removed that were board members. And these people that were removed, I don't know which ones were involved, but some of these other people that were removed were involved with investigating Nick. Again, I don't have enough information to share what was being investigated. I have to be fair. I don't know what was being investigated, or I don't have enough information to confirm that. But what I do know is all of a sudden, as this investigation was heating up, as there was some type of, I guess, recommendations being made, all of a sudden, several people were removed, not just this communications chair, but several other people.
Yes. And I didn't mean, this has been very, very trying, this situation with MPP, and me being a person who decided I was not going to shut up and I was not going to sit back quietly and pretend that I was an infiltrator and go along with the tagline. I've been attacked consistently. His statement of this is incorrect is just not true. I wasn't talking about the petition regarding Sabrina Pena. I know about that petition. I'm not part of MPP. I didn't have anything to do with that one. I didn't sign it. I have nothing to do with it. The petition I was talking about is the one that was drafted at the end of 2020 that over 200 people signed. And when that petition came to light to the group of people who were in Slack at the time in early 2021, that was when a whole set of people were removed from the organization, including me. Hence my statement.
And that petition, just to dumb it down for people, because there's a lot of committees and positions nobody understands, just to dumb it down, there's a petition signed by 200 people basically saying that MPP and the internal structure was disorganized, chaos, bad communication, bad systems. That's basically what that petition was.
Yeah, lack of transparency. They needed to, reignite the regenerative circle, which was supposed to be in place to keep people safe, to have a place of regress, and to be able to file grievances. There were a number of things that were going on within the organization that were extremely problematic. And at the time when that petition was supposed to lead to actual change in the organization, they found an excuse to kick over 20 people out overnight via Zoom call.
Gotcha. And moving forward to now, I don't want to get into what he was being investigated for because I don't have enough information. But what I do want to get into is the timing seems odd. The timing seems that there was an investigation into Nick. And as that investigation's going on, there's seeming to be a push by Nick on this COVID stuff, like a vote against, for MPP's position to be anti-mandate. Again, whatever. I mean, I'm not getting into that. But, and then as there's an investigation going on, they are removing people, but board members, but the Slack message showing that removal was kind of vague. Colin, if we could put back up that Slack message showing the removal of board members. It basically says, effective immediately, Regina Clark, Thomas Royko, and Todd Jellin are no longer on the coordinator circle board of directors of the People's Party. There are times when changes become necessary for the sake of the organization, and those in leadership need to make difficult decisions. When a board is paralyzed or doesn't exercise leadership, critical decisions are delayed. So they're basically, I don't know, saying that these board members were too slow or not doing their jobs. But what I don't understand is the petition that I was just sent, as far as the communications director, was addressed to those three members.
Right.
So why was it addressed to those three members, those three board members, but then those board members are removed in the same couple day period?
Right. And what I'm telling you is it's a cycle. The minute things start to get in a place where Nick feels threatened, and I'm perfectly comfortable saying this, when he feels like he has any chance of maybe losing his place of power, he goes on a rampage and they start kicking people out. It's literally what happened a year ago when they booted 20 something people out in the middle of the night. The minute he feels like he's going to have a problem, it's just time to clean house. And then he'll start all over again. And then he'll go on Jimmy Dore or whoever he wants to go on and talk about infiltration and say, these people just want to ruin the third party process. And, people, because they're afraid of the duopoly, which we all should be afraid of duopoly, like they just fall into line and then nothing ever changes. It will just recycle back to this same thing all over again.
Right. And also, just to be clear, from what I understand, a lot of the people who have been purged or quit on their own or whatever are still very much for a third party movement.
100%.
They just were not. There seems to be that it was disorganized within MPP. There was no real infrastructure, no actual. A lot of bad communications. If you go back to Colin, if we go back to Paula Jean Swearengin's tweet about the lack of organization or infrastructure, this was the second one, Colin. She had tweeted out, they don't have the infrastructure and knowledge to run any effective campaign. The people that were going to help them are getting run off. And it seems to me, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, and again, I reached out to Nick. I haven't heard back. Well, he sent me a text with that petition. He didn't respond to me to talk before I went live. It seems to me that there's a very top-down situation going on here, where even though there's a board, Nick and his allies have significant power in terms of who stays or who goes.
Correct.
Okay. And I want to, just before I let you go, I want to get to, again, by the way, since I've tweeted about this morning, I've already had like 5 or 6 people reach out to me, some of whom were purged. So what you're saying, I've spoken with 2 of them so far, but you're not the only one saying this. It seems to be a pattern. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about what exactly, because the bottom line is, third parties and organizations have drama. It's a new thing. So to be fair, obviously there's going to be imperfections, but there seems to me the main thing that I want to get to is it doesn't seem that there has been much progress made in several years to actually get on the ballot and get candidates running, which is obviously the goal. That's right. The goal. We could shit on the Democratic Party till we're blue in the face. I'm all for that. But if people are going to be supporting groups like MPP, there has to be actual progress being made. Obviously, you haven't been there in a year, but from somebody I just spoke with who is still there, this person told me that they're not any closer to having candidates on the ballot. So can you kind of share what you know? Because I know you've kept in touch with people.
Yeah. So they have minor party ballot access in multiple states. So they're a minor party in Florida. I I'm not 100% sure how it works in California, because they fell something like, I don't know, like 80,000 people short of getting ballot access in California. They claim to have ballot access in Virginia. The reality is that the people in Virginia were very, very clear about what it actually meant to run something in Virginia, which is basically you can run a person, but you cannot be a party in Virginia. You can be a political action committee in Virginia. That is how the law in Virginia is written. And the issue is that it's all very murky. So People's Party is able to create this idea that they're making movement in the right direction as far as being able to run people, but they don't have actual major party ballot access anywhere. And the only place where there's an actual documented, they have all of it together in order to run a candidate, is in Washington. And Washington has refused to affiliate with National, which is why no one ever knows that Washington has a full-fledged state party. So
and why you're talking about Washington State?
Washington State, correct. So
and Washington State won't affiliate with the National. Why?
They will not, because they're not democratic. They don't want to affiliate with a national party that does not listen to the people that are supposed to be what's behind the party. You can't run someone for president when you haven't run anybody anywhere. It's not possible. It's the silliest thing I've ever heard, that you're now in 2024, they're going to run a presidential candidate. How? They don't have anybody in any states. They don't have any local offices. In Virginia, they were going to try and start local races. That would have worked. But of course, they got, all the Virginia people left because it was so absurd what was going on in the Slack. This is what is consistently happening. This group started in 2017. It's 2022, and they're now announcing that they're going to run someone for president in 2024. It's absurd.
And can I ask you, and to be fair, I mean, Status Coup we're a small outlet. We've spent money on things that didn't end up working out. For example, one of our Flint stories a couple months ago, we spent like $3,000 on a press release, hoping that if we would get it out to all the media organizations, it would get pickup. It didn't. So sometimes as an organization, you fork forward significant funds for good reasons, altruistic, and it just doesn't work out. But I was told, and looking through IRS documents, that MPP paid $20,000. Colin, if you have the screenshots, they paid $20,000 to a graphic design company called Upstatement. Yep. There's the documents: 10,000, 5,000, 5,000. Essentially for a new logo and other graphics. I can't confirm, but from 3 people I spoke with, they said that they're still using the old graphic, the original logo. Right. So I'm asking that not to poke fun at Nick or MPP, but I mean, that's pretty significant expenditure for a small group that's taking donations. Right. And I don't know if the logo was delivered and they just didn't use it. But
I was one of the volunteers when all of this was kind of kicking off. And at the time, they had volunteers who were actual graphic designers. And there was a big beef when this happened, because the actual graphic designers who were volunteering with MPP were all on board with reworking the graphics and doing all the work. And it came to a vote. Nick wanted the company. He got outvoted, and somehow they still paid the company, but nothing ever happened. So they are still indeed using the old graphic they've been using. No one knows where that money went, what it paid for, what it got done. No one's clear on that. And this was part of the argument back then, was you're not even transparent about these things. How is it possible that you gave this much money to a group and no one knows what the money was for, what it paid for, who got, there's no information. So it's things like that brought all of these things into question, to say, why are these decisions being made with this amount of money when you're getting, you know, they're getting $5, $10, $15, $20 donations. For some people, I can't imagine that it's easy to give that money every month, no matter how small the amount is. And you should be, as an organization that's claiming you're going to break the duopoly, you should at least be honest enough with your donors to let them know where their money is going.
Well, what stands out to me about that, and to be honest, Colin, if you could put it back up, I assume the 20,000 was not just for one logo. I mean, that would be crazy. I'm sure there was, the graphic design company was supposed to be providing other services, but okay, that's $20,000.
Right.
Again, from multiple sources I've spoken with, they only, they're still using the old logo. So that's kind of like, you know, that begs the question on other expenditures.
Right. Where's the transparency?
And
exactly.
In your experience there, were questions asked to Nick about expenditures or what money was going to, and was he responsive?
Well, what we were told essentially was, well, there's a whole committee that deals with the financial stuff, and you just have to go and look at the IRS documents. And my argument had always been, okay, but that's what everyone else is doing. Everyone, you can go to the IRS or the dark secrets or, you know, wherever and get open secrets and get information about where the general money goes, but where is the transparency in that? And that was always one of my arguments that just kind of got thrown off, like, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. There's a working circle, but it still doesn't give any transparency. It gave no answers to anybody. And the answer was always, oh, we're transparent. We have a transparency page and we have a working circle that does all that work.
I see. Before I let you go, just to kind of cheer people, my goal is not to tear down MPP. I mean, I'm for a third party. I don't tell people whether to dem enter, dem exit. It's up to you. I try to offer some nuance, but I want to hear from you because, you know, I see some people in the chat thinking like this is a takedown of MPP. No, I mean, there is developments with MPP that I have to report on because I cover the progressive movement and they are purporting to be the alternative to the Democratic Party. So ask for you and others, do you still want to see a third party in the country? Would you like to see it as MPP, but just with different leadership? Like, where do you stand and where do other people stand that were with MPP? Obviously, you can't speak for other people, but you know, you still speak with other people that are involved.
Right. So, and this is going to happen every time I agree to do one of these conversations. It turns into she's an infiltrator. She's a Dem. I'm a registered Green Party person. I'm registered Green Party. So I am a third party voter, period. So let's just clear that up. The other thing is when they started the National Organizing Committee, this NOC that was supposed to be the new CC, they did a whole supposed campaign where people were going to be able to choose who was going to be the chair. Joe, and I'm sorry, Joe, if you didn't want me to bring him up, but Joe was running against Nick. I would have stopped all my conversation about where the problems were in MPP and allowed Joe time to try and right the ship. If they right the ship, I have nothing to complain about. If they're transparent, I have nothing to say. If they're not making decisions on Zoom calls in the middle of the night where no one knows what's going on, I have nothing to say. If they're not throwing out members and disregarding board people and pretending like volunteers don't exist, I have nothing to say. It is an organization that is supposed to be running for the benefit of all people that doesn't do anything that's going to benefit any people. All I see them doing is sending out emails and writing tweets and doing what? I don't even know what purpose they're serving. They're not even going to run any candidates. And people will say, oh, well, you need to give them time. How much time are they supposed to? It's been 5 years. They haven't even run somebody for like school board. Like, run somebody. Do something. Serve a purpose. They spent a lot of time last summer. They were gathering volunteers. They were going to vet. They were going to get people ready to run. They were going to have a whole slate in 2022. That literally just disappeared. They just stopped talking about it. They didn't explain why. They didn't give any information about what happened. They didn't express to anybody, here's why we're not going to run any candidates. They just pretended like that wasn't what they got everybody excited to do. That is a problem. It's an issue. And for people to sit back and blame me, like, who am I? I work in a high school. I'm a volunteer. I'm a member of Socialist Alternative. I'm a registered Green Party voter. All I am is a person who wants to see something change. And if I, as a volunteer in an organization, am very clear that that organization is incapable of changing things because the people who are leaders are more worried about staying leaders than they are about making their organization do the things that it's supposed to do in order to serve the purpose it purports to serve, that's not my fault. That's their fault.
Thank you, Renee Johnston, for joining me. I think you're just sharing your experience. So if people want to criticize you, that's their prerogative. But everything I could tell, you're not trying to destroy MPP. Neither am I. But whether it's people who technically are for the same policies we're for, we have to address if there is, let's just say, untoward things going on behind the scenes. So thank you, Renee. We'll keep in touch. Anything else you want to share?
No, okay. I'm good. And I'm sorry for all the blowback you're about to get.
I get blowback all the time. It's fine. It's fine.
All right.
Thank you, Renee.
Have a great day. Bye.
Okay. So that was Renee Johnston. Just so you know, I have spoken with other people. I'm going to try to line up other interviews. There are some people I've spoken with already today that are not comfortable going public. Hopefully that changes. To be clear, people can believe me or not, and I am going to read super chats. And by the way, as a reminder, smash that like button. We're not done. And at 5 o'clock Eastern, I'm going to have an interview with Jake Hanrahan, a documentary filmmaker with Popular Front. He is in Kiev in Ukraine. So we're going to have an interview with him. I recorded it yesterday on the Ukraine-Russia situation. You might hear a whole lot of things that you don't know. So stay tuned for that at 5 o'clock Eastern. A couple things. Number one, and this is about any third-party movement. So this is in fairness to MPP. There's always going to be disorganization. There's always going to be infighting, not just in wishful, wannabe third-party movements, but in activist circles. I've traveled the country for 6 years. There's always infighting, division, and sometimes worse in activist circles. But here, and again, I can confirm, Nick Brana was being investigated internally at MPP. I do not have enough information verified to share with you what the investigation was about. I think I know what it was about, but as a journalist, I'm not going to say things that I can't verify. So he was being investigated, and some of the individuals who were part of that investigation were removed. So that I know from multiple sources. Some of the individuals that were part of that investigation were removed. So that's not talking about a year ago. That's talking about now, like over the past couple of days. So that is not obviously a good thing. The reasons that were given for removing certain people were kind of vague. So as far as, if a third party movement is going to constantly be bashing the Democratic Party, rightly so, in my opinion, you kind of have to live. You kind of have to live by your, what your stated values are. So, again, there has been a removal of people in the past. From what I'm told by sources, that removal of volunteers and sometimes, contractors was from Nick himself and Nick and his allies at the top. To just read Paula Jean's comments. Once again, this is Paula Jean's first statement that she did, I believe, yesterday. After several questions, I will confirm People's Party is purging staff, board members, and volunteers with open, serious grievances against Nick Brana. This is happening after months of retaliation. Obviously, I withdraw my support. So I have not spoken with Paula, but I can tell you the open, serious grievances part, from what I have learned from other sources, that is in reference to an investigation that was going on into Nick Brana. And this is happening after months of retaliation. I was told, as part of this investigation, there was efforts to delay the investigation and retaliate against people who were demanding an investigation. So I don't have all the information, but what I do know is I'm not only hearing this from Paula Jean Swearengin and her tweet. I've spoken with enough people by now there is enough sources telling me he was being investigated. I'm trying to get more information on what exactly was the investigation. But this doesn't mean MPP needs to fold its tent. If you still support MPP, I'm not calling for MPP to be disbanded. That's not my role as a journalist. But it is my role as a journalist to report to you what's going on. The other thing is, again, it's not the primary issue, and it's not the primary reason that anyone's being removed or anything like that. But I did hear from multiple sources that in recent weeks and months, COVID became a really hotbed internal issue, as far as particularly the internal Slack channel, where people were, putting in stuff about ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and, quoting things they heard from Joe Rogan and others. And it was getting very hostile to the point where people, volunteers and others, left because there wasn't much discussion about actually organizing and building. It was all over mandates and vaccines and this kind of stuff. I tweeted it earlier, but Colin, if you have those tweets, I already read one of Nick's tweets, not tweets, but his statements from the internal Slack channel. But I read one of Nick's longer statements from the internal Slack channel. I'll read some of the other ones if you have it, Colin. Let me find it here. So the long one, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it started out, I remember, the movement against mandates is the largest populist movement in the world. It is the #1 issue that tens of millions of people are tuning in to a populist independent media to hear about, including Jimmy Dore, Kim Iverson, Joe Rogan, Russell Brand, and Breaking Points, because people essentially vote with their viewership in real time. Populist independent media are a strong barometer of the issues that populists care about. The causes that unite working people on the left and the right to, quote, dismantle the corporate state, as Ralph Nader put it in his 2015 book, Unstoppable. This, again, is from the internal Slack. Status Coup obtained some of these messages. Another message from Nick in this internal Slack. There are so many like them. That's part of why the scientific pro-public health and populist stance is to oppose COVID vaccine mandates. Getting the vaccine is a personal health decision based on individual factors such as age, underlying conditions, vaccine side effects, and natural immunity from previous infections. Everyone should have a right to get it, and no one should have a right to force you to get it or not. You could agree with him or not. Another comment he made, many have had to choose between vaccination and losing their jobs, like the New York healthcare workers. That's not a real choice for many people. In Minnesota, and the DFL is requiring vaccination to join their meetings. I have a friend at a major union, which was requiring him to get vaccinated to participate in the union. So I was told by multiple sources that Nick was really pushing aggressively for a yes or no vote among MPP members on whether the organization should come out publicly against COVID vaccine mandates and other kind of COVID measures. And the board members were, I don't know how many board members, but board members were pushing instead for an up or down vote for them to do polling amongst MPP members. And Nick wasn't for that. He wanted the yes or no vote and to go for MPP to publicly call for an end against the mandates. So that's all I have for now. I'm going to continue digging onto this, trying to speak with other people. Again, I'm sure I'll be attacked for trying to take down MPP. It's not my goal here. You don't have to support the Democratic Party. You could be third party. You could be no party. That's for you. I don't push people as far as what you should do. But I'm just trying to report what I know and the facts as best as I can. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I avoided this to not hurt MPP. That's not my role. So that's what I have for now. Let me read some super chats and other things. I will continue digging into this. Pink Moon, $5. Thank you. NF, $5. NF, $10. Regina Clark, $19.99. Thank you. Kyle Woolley, $5. Where are the bylaws? Based on what we've been told, there weren't. Alex, $50. Damn, goodbye third party. I don't know if you have to say goodbye third party, but as far as MPP, obviously there's questions and answers. Nick's going to have to provide some answers. Alex, another $25. What's the alternative for us? The squad clearly failed their objective. Manchin was more effective than the squad. There's a lot of people on YouTube that push absolutes. If somebody's running as a Democrat, no, I don't care who the person is. No, I'm not voting for a Democrat. There's other people who say, I'm not voting, period. I'm not into electoral politics. I'm done with electoral politics. Third party, Democratic Party. We're just doing direct action. Everybody's got a different opinion. But what should be clear to people is it is not easy to build a third party. And for those who have been pushing that this is the best way and this is the clearest path to taking over the duopoly, maybe they were sincere in thinking that, but it is not easy. And it is important who leads these organizations. It is important that they have transparency. It is important that they have structure. It is important that they have people involved that actually ran campaigns before, actually have political experience. So, that's a nuanced position, but it's not to say you can't be involved in trying to build a third party, but you should know it's not as simple and easy as some might make you think. And it is clearly the best way, as opposed to taking over the Democratic Party or not doing politics and doing direct action. It's more nuanced than a lot of YouTubers will present to you. Alex, $25. So true. So much excitement for nothing. MPP. Mary Jane, $5. What is the point in voting third party without ranked choice voting? I believe MPP is for ranked choice voting. I'm pretty sure about that. Jose, $20. Thank you for covering this. I didn't know this was going on with MPP. Questionable for sure. Absolutely. Jesus, $20. Thank you, Jesus. Christina tipped $5 in Rockfin. Thank you, Christina. So that's all I got. Again, 5 o'clock Eastern, we're going to have an interview with Jake Hanrahan. He's a documentary filmmaker and journalist. He is in Kiev right now, so we're going to interview him on what's actually going on the ground, Russia, Ukraine, rather than the media propaganda. So that's coming up at 5 o'clock. Also, if you're new here, subscribe and click the bell for all notifications. Subscribe and click the bell for all notifications, so you'll get notifications when we're live. We're live nightly, Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern, Friday at 4 o'clock Eastern. So usually we're live at 5 o'clock Eastern. I went live a little bit earlier today, but nightly we're live at 5 o'clock Eastern. Click that bell. By the way, we're premiering on Callin this week. We're going to be starting on Callin, the new podcasting app. So go follow us there. Status Coup News is our channel on Callin. We'll be doing it on Wednesday, probably at 5:45, our first Callin episode. So go follow us on Callin. It's free to sign up if you're not already on Callin. Brianna Joy Gray, Matt Taibbi, and others are already on Callin. And please support us as a Status Coup member, statuscoup.com/join. You can become a member for as low as $5 a month. Membership is how we fund our on-the-ground reporting, investigative reporting like this. It's really not cheap to actually do on-the-ground reporting, traveling for stories, investigative reporting. So please, if you can, sign up for $5 to $10 a month. We have different membership levels. And as a member, you get access to our monthly members call, behind the scenes video, a member Discord channel. So please sign up, statuscoup.com/join for as low as $5 a month. I really, really appreciate all our members. Yesterday, we got 4 new members. Let me give a shout out to Jeff, Patricia, Nick, and Lisa. So they signed up yesterday. Hopefully we could get some new signups today. And that's all I got for now. As I learn new information, I will follow up as far as new information on the MPP situation. But I've reported everything I know accurately. And again, I did reach out to Nick Brana, but didn't hear from him before I came live. Colin, did I miss anything?
You just got 2 more super chats real quick.
Okay. Regina Clark, $4.99. We were kicked out based on bylaws that mysteriously appeared after the investigation started that seemed to have existed during the petition. So apparently, according to Regina, they were kicked out by bylaws that just popped up around the time they were kicked out. Alex, $5. We need to stop being so smug. The left, this hinders our ability to build coalitions with groups and ultimately a third party. I agree. And I think the left needs to stop being absolutists. Stop the absolutist positions that never a Democrat. I'll never vote for a Democrat if, you know, even if the person is great. Or I'm done with electoral politics, period. I'm done with electoral politics, period. Or I'm not even interested in third parties, just direct action. Let's not have black or white thinking. Yes, many of us are cynical. Many of us are angry. Many of us are hopeless. But at the end of the day, progressive means progress. So we need to figure out, how do we get progress quickest? So I'm not saying support the Democratic Party. I'm not saying support MPP. I'm not saying get out of electoral politics. It's not my role to be dem enter, dem exit, whatever. And a lot of people have pushed me to be one or the other. That's not my role. My role is to report what's going on and to follow the movement. So that's what I do. Thank you so much for watching. Again, we'll have an interview at 5 o'clock Eastern with Jake Hanrahan. He is in Kiev, reporting on the Russia-Ukraine situation. And I really hope, if you're new to Status Coup, you'll subscribe and click that bell for all notifications. Once you subscribe, it's right next to the subscribe button. You click the bell, you hover over the bell, and click all notifications, as you can see right there. Thank you for watching, and we will be back at 5 o'clock Eastern with Jake Hanrahan from Ukraine.